Aloha, dear friends. Welcome back to another study along of the World Order of Baha'u'llah, selected letters from Shoghi Effendi. This is a study along. I'm just going to read to you these letters and share some of my thoughts, and I hope you will share your thoughts with me in the comments below. So we're here just to deepen and excavate, to empower us and arm us with knowledge and a better understanding so we can be more active agents in this amazing day and age and actually contributing to making the world a better place by applying Baha'u'llah's solutions to all of the world's problems. Before we proceed, I just want to remind you to subscribe to this channel. Feel free to hit the like button if you do enjoy this video because it actually helps more people find this content. It's just part of the YouTube game. And if you want to be notified every time these videos are uploaded, just hit that bell notification by the subscribe. These videos are uploaded every Friday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And stay tuned at the end of this video because I have a special announcement. So last week we started this book and I read 2 weeks ago we started, and I've been going through the introductions written by Horace Holly and then the first salutation from Shoghi Effendi in the first letter that comprises this book from 1929. One thing I want to address that was brought up to me by a listener, thank you Shastri, that in the first introduction, which I gather was published sometime 2930, it was after the letters were written, but before 1955, Horace Holly says in his own words, as he is sort of framing this compilation of letters and Baha'u'llah's teachings in the spiritual and administrative element, he says that the command of rendering unto God what is God and unto Caesar's what is Caesar's has been annulled by this revolutionary revelation of Baha'u'llah. And though we can surmise that Shoghi Effendi approved the introduction that Horace Holly wrote, I don't actually know that explicitly is in the writings themselves. If I'm wrong, feel free to contribute. But I just want to point that out, that was Horace Holly sort of framing this in his own way. And again, we can gather that it was approved of, but it isn't actually explicitly in the writings. But as a Baha'i, anyone who identifies as Baha'i, Baha'u'llah has brought all new teachings for this day and age that, of course, are part of the continuance of progressive revelation that build on the spiritual education and illumination of the past, but has completely laid a new foundation. So we can see it from both eyes, right? So jumping in to that first letter from Shoghi Effendi written to the National Spiritual Assembly of the U.S. and Canada combined in 1929, the impetus for this letter appears to be certain criticisms that were hurled towards the faith, we believe from Ruth White, who was raising objections to the station of the Guardian and making some claims about her perception of what Abdu'l-Baha's intention for the Bahai Faith was. Sounds like she was dismissive of any administrative element, like thinking that the Bahai Faith was meant only to be spiritual. That's what it sounds like. And quite beautifully, Shoghi Effendi says, I am taking this opportunity when a criticism has been hurled, not just a criticism, but an intentional sort of disruption and agitation for the whole community. He said, this is great. This is an opportunity for us to really fortify our faith and really, articulate some things. And I just love that was his attitude towards this. Maybe I received a criticism yesterday for something from a friend, and like, what a beautiful attitude. And maybe you can use this in your life when something happens that hurts or is disruptive, or you're criticized for something. It's like, oh, this is part of providence helping this situation be better. In this case, it was an opportunity for Shoghi Effendi to articulate more of the fundamentals of the Baha'i Faith and the administrative order. All right, my friends. It was a lot of a preamble from Jackie. So without any further ado, let me continue sources of the Baha'i world order. It would, however, be helpful and instructive to bear in mind certain basic principles with reference to the will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha, which together with the Kitab-i-Aqdas, the most holy book. So we have two things here to study, you guys. The will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha. Have you studied that recently? I have not, but I will. Which together with the Kitab-i-Aqdas. Have you studied that recently? I have not, but I will. Maybe we'll read some of it here. So these two constitute the chief depository wherein are enshrined those priceless elements of that divine civilization, the establishment of which is the primary mission of the Baha'i Faith. So the primary mission of the Baha'i Faith is the establishment of that divine civilization, which has been enshrined in the Kitab-i-Aqdas and the will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha. Divine civilization. A study of the provisions of these sacred documents will reveal the close relationship that exists between them, as well as the identity of purpose and method which they inculcate. Far from regarding their specific provisions as incompatible and contradictory in spirit, every fair-minded inquirer will readily admit that they are not only complementary, but that they mutually confirm one another and are inseparable parts of one complete unit. Inseparable parts of one complete unit. The will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha and the Kitab-i-Aqdas, the book of laws in the Bahai Faith. A comparison of their contents with the rest of Baha'i sacred writings will similarly establish the conformity of whatever they contain with the spirit as well as the letter of the authenticated writings and sayings of Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha. In fact, he who reads the Aqdas with care and diligence will not find it hard to discover that the most holy book itself anticipates in a number of passages the institutions which Abdu'l-Baha ordains in his will. By leaving certain matters unspecified and unregulated in his book of laws, Baha'u'llah seems to have deliberately left a gap in the general scheme of Baha'i dispensation, which the unequivocal provisions of the Master's will have fulfilled. You with me? To attempt to divorce the one from the other, to insinuate that the teachings of Baha'u'llah have not been upheld in their entirety and with absolute integrity by what Abdu'l-Baha has revealed in his will is an unpardonable affront to the unswerving fidelity that has characterized the life and labors of our beloved Master. Not that I think anyone listening to this needs to, but I just think that was such a powerful statement that I want to read it again. to attempt to divorce the one from the other, to insinuate that the teachings of Baha'u'llah have not been upheld in their entirety and with absolute integrity by what Abdu'l-Baha has revealed in his will, is an unpardonable affront to the unswerving fidelity that has characterized the life and labors of our beloved Master. I will not attempt in the least to assert or demonstrate the authenticity of the will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha, for that in itself would betray an apprehension on my part as to the unanimous confidence of the believers in the genuineness of the last written wishes of our beloved Master. I will only confine my observations to those issues which may assist them to appreciate the essential unity that underlies the spiritual, the humanitarian, and the administrative principles enunciated by the author and interpreter of the Baha'i Faith. And I want to read that one again. He's going to confine his observations to those issues which may assist us to appreciate the essential unity that underlies the spiritual, the humanitarian, and the administrative principles, spiritual, humanitarian, administrative, enunciated by Abdu'l-Baha, the author and interpreter. Well, Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha. Author Baha'u'llah, interpreter Abdu'l-Baha, the Bahai Faith. I am at a loss to explain that strange mentality that inclines to uphold as the sole criterion of the truth of the Baha'i teachings what is admittedly only an obscure and unauthenticated translation of an oral statement made by Abdu'l-Baha in defiance and total disregard of the available text of all his universally recognized writings. So here, Shoghi Effendi is referring to those criticisms that inspired this letter, which I don't know exactly what they are, but we can infer what's going on here. There was a claim made of some hearsay of Abdu'l-Baha that is leading the criticizer to make certain statements and assumptions, whereas Shoghi Effendi is saying, when we have a whole body of authenticated writings, what leads you to think that one obscure thing that has not been, seen or authenticated is like the whole truth or even true at all? I truly deplore the unfortunate distortions that have resulted in days past from the incapacity of the interpreter to grasp the meaning of Abdu'l-Baha and from his incompetence to render adequately such truths as have been revealed to him by the Master's statements. Much of the confusion that has obscured the understanding of the believers should be attributed to this double error involved in the inexact rendering of an only partially understood statement. So partially understood in the first place and then poorly interpreted into English or French or whatever language. Not infrequently has the interpreter even failed to convey the exact purport of the inquirer's specific questions, and by his deficiency of understanding and expression in conveying the answer of Abdu'l-Baha has been responsible for reports wholly at variance with the true spirit and purpose of the cause. It was chiefly in view of the misleading nature of the reports of the informal conversations of Abdu'l-Baha with visiting pilgrims. I'm sorry, I keep having to fuss with this. With visiting pilgrims that I have insistently urged the believers of the West to regard such statements as merely personal impressions of the sayings of the Master, and to quote and consider as authentic only such translations as are based on the authenticated text of his recorded utterances in the original tongue. So here we're talking about Pilgrim's notes, right? Things that were hearsay, people's personal impressions, as opposed to the authenticated written writings of Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha. It should be remembered by every follower of the cause that the system of Baha'i administration is not an innovation imposed arbitrarily upon the Baha'is of the world since the Master's passing, but derives its authority from the will and testament of Abdu'l-Baha, is specifically prescribed in unnumbered tablets, and rests in some of its essential features upon the explicit provisions of the Kitab-i-Aqdas. It thus unifies and correlates the principles separately laid down by Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha, and is indissolubly bound with the essential verities of the faith. And I think this is a really key chunk right here. To disassociate the administrative principles of the cause from the purely spiritual and humanitarian teachings would be tantamount to a mutilation of the body of the cause, a separation that can only result in the disintegration of its component parts and the extinction of the faith itself. So he really said that same thing twice, that the Baha'i Faith as spiritual, humanitarian, and administrative. And then he just concluded by saying to try to separate or disassociate is a mutilation and will lead to the extinction of the faith. So, my friends, we will be back next week, Friday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, with a continued reading. In the meantime, maybe as homework, we can pull out the Will and Testament of Abdu'l-Baha and the Kitab-i-Aqdas and be refreshing our study of those. Please feel free to drop your comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. You can help expand my knowledge and understanding of what we just read. Feel free to ask questions. If you want to get in touch with me, you can go to my website, JacquelineClaireArt.com, and go to the contact page. Remember to subscribe and like. And I do have an announcement. Believe it or not, we are 1 month away from AYYAM-I-HA 2021. Where does the time go? And I just wanted you to know that my Baha'i children's book, illustrated book for children of all ages, wink, wink, that's all of us, is still available on the Indiegogo page. They've been kind enough to extend my order window there since you guys helped me make my fundraising goal. So this is illustrated book, all of Baha'i quotes, work done in the spirit of service is the highest form of worship, and courtesy is the prince of virtues. Let's find some full color ones for you. Let your heart burn with loving kindness for all who may cross your path. The betterment of the world can be accomplished through pure and goodly deeds. This book has 39 illustrated quotes from the Baha'i writings, all hand done with great love, and it's still available. And I think it'd be a great AYYAM-I-HA gift for your Baha'i friends, grown-ups, children, and for any of your close non-Baha'i friends that you want to include in your celebration of AYYAM-I-HA. This was a limited edition book, at least so far. I have about 65 books left. So if you want to pick some up for AYYAM-I-HA, I have the links below to order Noble Beings, and they're all hand-signed. All right, my friends. Well, we have some homework. We'll study the Will and Testament and the Kitab-i-Aqdas. And I will catch you next week with more readings from the World Order of Baha'u'llah. Till then, I wish you the best for playing your part in making this world a better place.